My world ended on a Tuesday. My phone buzzed on the kitchen counter, and I glanced at it, expecting a text from my boyfriend, Lysander. Instead, it was a bank alert. Insufficient funds. That had to be a mistake. I'd just been paid. I opened the app for the joint savings account we'd been building for 5 years. My hand started to shake. The balance, which should have been just over $150,000, read $0. I scrolled, frantic. One transaction, an hour ago, a full wire transfer. Then I saw it. A piece of white paper on the counter, weighted down by my spare key. Sorry, I needed this more. I didn't scream. I just folded. My knees hit the cold tile. The air pushed from my lungs. He hadn't just left me. He had gutted my life. If you believe that karma always finds its way back, you'll want to see how the story ends. I was still on the floor, my mind a blank, staticky fog, when my phone buzzed again. This time, it wasn't the bank. It was an Instagram notification. Someone had tagged me in a photo. I tapped it, my thumb numb. My heart stopped. It was Lysander. He was on a private jet, his arm wrapped around a flashy blonde I'd never seen before. Her name was Talia. They were clinking champagne glasses, grinning at the camera. Lysander looked relaxed, happy and rich. Talia's caption was a knife twist. To our new life in the big leagues. Airplane, this wasn't an impulse. This wasn't a moment of desperation. This was a plan. He had been lying to me for months, waiting for the right moment to steal everything I had and disappear. The humiliation burned hotter than the grief. They were laughing at me. The next day, a bright orange sticker was slapped onto my apartment door. Eviction notice. My stomach dropped into my shoes. With the account empty, the rent check had bounced. Of course, Lysander always handled the rent from the joint account. I grabbed my phone, my hands trembling with a mix of rage and terror. I had to hear his voice. I had to make him fix this. I dialed his number. The number you have dialed is not in service. He hadn't just left. He had vanished. I sank to the floor in the hallway, the ugly orange paper crinkling against my back. I had no money. I had no one. In less than 48 hours, I was about to be homeless. He didn't just break my heart, he shattered my entire life. I spent the next 2 days in a daze, sorting my life into 2 piles. Trash and charity. My hands were raw from the cardboard boxes. As I emptied a drawer, my fingers brushed against a cold, silver frame, lying face down. I turned it over. It was Arion, Lysander's father, who had passed away from a heart attack 6 months ago. He was a kind, serious man who always treated me like a daughter. I remembered his words to me at a family barbecue, his hand on my shoulder. You have integrity, Cassia. Don't let my son's ambition change that. He had seen his son. He had known what Lysander was capable of. He had tried to warn me. The memory brought a fresh wave of tears, hot and bitter. My phone rang, vibrating on the empty floor. It was an unknown number from a prestigious downtown Miami zip code. I almost ignored it, thinking it was another creditor. Hello. I answered, my voice hoarse. A woman's voice, crisp and professional, replied. Is this Miss Cassia? Yes, I said. This is Helene, Arion's estate lawyer. My heart stammered. Why was she calling me? We need you to come to our office. The final probate is complete, and there are matters you must attend to. I was confused, leaning against the wall. Me? But Lysander is his son. I'm not family. Not anymore. Helene's voice was firm. Mr. Arion was very specific. Please, be here tomorrow at 10. I wore the only clean dress I had left to the law office. It was in a glass tower that scraped the sky, and I felt small and poor walking into the lobby. The office was all dark wood and smelled like money. Helene, a sharp woman with intelligent eyes, didn't waste time with small talk. She had me sign a paper, and then she began to read the will. To my son, Lysander, I leave a conditional allowance of $5,000 per month. I relaxed a little, still wondering why I was there. Helene paused, looked at me over her glasses, and read the next line. And to Cassia, for her loyalty and kindness, which my son never deserved, I leave my entire controlling share, 51%, of Helios Innovations, effective immediately. The air left my lungs in a silent whoosh. What? I whispered, my voice barely audible. 51%. That can't be right. Helene nodded, a small, satisfied smile playing on her lips. Arion knew his son very well, Cassia. He set this up months ago, right after you helped nurse him through his first heart incident. She pointed to another line in the document. The will stipulates Lysander's allowance is to be paid by the company, but only at the discretion of the new majority shareholder. It hit me like a freight train. The company was worth hundreds of millions. I wasn't just a beneficiary. I wasn't just rich. I was, in effect, Lysander's new boss. It got better. Or worse, depending on your perspective. Helene continued. Lysander has been living on massive credit for the past year, expecting this inheritance to pay off all his debts. He assumed he was the sole heir. Helios Innovations was his only safety net. Suddenly, the theft made perfect sense. The $150,000 he stole from me, it wasn't a victory lap. It was a desperate, panicked grab because his other lines of credit were already maxed out. He was running on fumes. He has no idea he's been almost entirely cut out. He's on a private jet with my money, thinking he's the king of the world. He's actually completely ruined. A cold fire started deep in my chest. The fear I'd been living with for days turned into something hard and sharp. Helene, I said, and my voice was different. It was steady. Call an emergency board meeting. Now. An hour later, I was sitting in Arion's huge leather chair, facing a giant screen with the 5 stunned faces of the company's board members. Guided by Helene, I made my first act as majority shareholder. I am ordering a full, immediate freeze on all executive expense accounts and all company credit cards, pending a full forensic audit of the last 12 months. The board, deeply respecting Arion's final wishes, agreed without argument. The trap was set. 2 days later, I was in Arion's office, my office, when I heard shouting down the hall. Who the hell froze my account? I want answers. The polished oak doors slammed open, and Lysander stormed in, his face red and sweaty. Talia was right behind him, looking like a furious doll. His corporate card had just been declined at a 5-star restaurant. He was yelling at Arion's assistant, then he saw me. He stopped dead. His jaw went slack. He looked at me, then at the massive desk I was sitting behind, then back at me. Cassia, what are you doing here? I leaned back in the leather chair. That would be me, Lysander. I froze your account. Lysander's face went from angry red to a sickly, pale white. This is a joke, he sputtered, trying to laugh it off. A very funny joke. Now get out of my father's chair. Talia chimed in, her voice like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah, get out of the boss's chair, sweetie. Your little visit is over. I didn't say a word. I just calmly picked up the thick, ribbon-bound will documents and slid them across the polished mahogany table. He stared at them. He scanned the first page, his eyes darting back and forth. Then they fixed on the paragraph with my name. His whole body started to shake. I am your boss, Lysander, I said softly. And we need to discuss the $150,000 you wired from my savings account last Tuesday. You can't prove that was theft. Talia snapped, her voice suddenly high-pitched and panicked. It was a gift. He said you gave it to him. I almost smiled. Oh, I'm not even worried about that right now. Because the audit I've launched isn't for my money. It's for the $20,000 you and Talia charged to the company expense account for your business trip to the Caribbean. I tapped the printout of her Instagram post. The one you posted all over social media. The one with the private jet and the new life caption. You see, the IRS calls that fraud. Talia's painted-on smile vanished. Lysander's mask of confidence didn't just crack, it shattered into 1,000 pieces. He knew that $20,000 was just the tip of the iceberg. Talia, realizing their new life was evaporating before her eyes, rounded on him. Her voice was a screech. Lysander, what did you do? What does she mean? Fraud. You told me this was all yours. You told me she was nothing. She pointed a long, manicured finger at me. You said she was just some poor, stupid girl. You lied to me. The two of them, who had been partners in crime, were now just rats in a trap. He ignored her, his eyes wide and locked on me. He was desperate. Cassia, please. Please don't do this. The audit, it will ruin me. I'll pay you back, I swear. I'll give you the $150,000 back. Just stop it. I leaned forward, my voice quiet but hard as steel. Pay me back. With what? I asked, spreading my hands. Your allowance is frozen. Your credit is frozen. Your father's entire estate is frozen, and I hold the key. I let the reality sink in. You have nothing, Lysander. You have nothing at all that isn't mine to give you. I will consider, pausing, the criminal fraud investigation, I said, letting the word criminal hang in the air between us. Lysander flinched. On 2 conditions. 1. You will transfer my $150,000 back into my personal account by noon tomorrow. Then, I turned my gaze to Talia, who was trying to blend into the expensive wallpaper. And 2. You will return the $12,000 designer handbag you bought yesterday with the company credit card. I have the receipt. I stood up. My office. Tomorrow. Noon. Don't be late. I walked out, leaving them both standing there, looking like their world had just ended. The panic must have been incredible. Helene told me they spend the next 24 hours in a desperate scramble trying to liquidate assets. But everything, the new watches, the sports car he was leasing, was bought on credit. They had no real money. They were a house of cards. Helene heard from a source that Talia showed up at Lysander's hotel, screaming, and threw the $12,000 handbag at his head. This is your fault. You ruined me. They were trapped, turning on each other like snakes in a bag. They had no choice. At 11:45 a.m., the $150,000 appeared in my account, and the handbag was dropped at the front desk. The next afternoon, the lead auditor called me into the boardroom. His face was grim. Miss Cassia, the situation is far worse than a $20,000 trip. He opened a thick binder. Lysander has been embezzling for over a year. Faking invoices, creating shell vendors, funneling money to offshore accounts. My blood ran cold. How much? I whispered. He pointed to a number at the bottom of a spreadsheet. So far, we've tracked over $750,000. This was no longer just about my stolen money or his expense account. He had committed serious, jailable white-collar crimes against his own father's company. He had been stealing from Arion long before he died. As I was processing this, my mind reeling, Arion's longtime executive assistant, Demetria, knocked softly and entered. She was a quiet, older woman with kind eyes, and she had always been loyal to Arion. She closed the door. Miss Cassia, she said, her voice low. Arion feared this. He knew his son. He told me to give this to you, and only you, if you were ever put in charge. She unlocked a small drawer in Arion's old desk and pulled out a thick, sealed envelope and a small, encrypted USB drive. He said you would know what to do. I waited until I was alone in the office that night, the city lights of Miami twinkling below. My hands trembled as I broke the wax seal on the envelope. The handwriting was Arion's, strong and clear. My dear Cassia, if you are reading this, I have passed, and my son has shown his true colors. I am so terribly sorry for the pain he has caused you. The company is yours. Do with it what you will. I felt a tear roll down my cheek. But the real gift, the one for you, is in the Irate Fund, a private philanthropic fund I've hidden on the books. Use it to do the good you see fit. I plugged the USB drive into my laptop. It contained all the fund's details. $5 million, sitting in a separate account, earmarked for charity but fully and completely under my control. Arion's final move wasn't just to disinherit his son, it was to empower me. He was protecting his true legacy, his belief in kindness and integrity, from his own bloodline. He had trusted me, not Lysander, to carry on his name. I felt the immense weight of his trust, and it strengthened my resolve. I knew exactly what I had to do. An email came in later that night. It was from Talia, sent from a new, anonymous account. I'll testify against him, she wrote, the words tumbling out in a rush. I'll tell you everything about the offshore accounts. He told me all about it. He was bragging. Just leave me out of the fraud charges. It was all him. I'm a victim too. He fooled me. I looked at her desperate, selfish words and felt nothing. Not anger, not even satisfaction. Just pity. I replied with one short sentence. All I want from you is the handbag, Talia. We are done. I summoned Lysander to the boardroom the next morning. He looked terrible. He hadn't slept. His expensive suit was wrinkled, and he was alone. I laid the thick, 100-page audit file on the polished table between us. "You stole $750,000 from this company, Lysander," I said, my voice flat. "And $150,000 from me." He didn't even try to deny it. He looked at the file, then at me, and he just broke. He slumped in the chair, covered his face with his hands, and began to sob. "I'm ruined," he choked out. "I'm ruined. Just send me to prison. It's over." I let him cry for a full minute, the silence in the huge room broken only by his pathetic sobs. "You will not go to jail," I said finally. He looked up, his eyes red and confused. "Arion wouldn't have wanted that," I said. "But you will pay it back. All of it." I slid a new contract and a pen across the table. "This is your new employment agreement. You will sign over 100% of your future allowance to the company to repay the $750,000. And you will work." I paused. "You start Monday. In the mailroom. For minimum wage." He was humiliated, his face pale with shock. But he knew it was this or federal prison. He picked up the pen and signed. The next day, I took the $150,000 he had returned and paid off the eviction notice. Then I moved into a new, bright apartment overlooking the bay. An apartment that was all mine. A week later, Helios Innovations officially seized and sold Lysander's leased sports car, a company asset he had faked invoices for. I used the proceeds from that sale to repay my stolen $150,000. It wasn't just money back. It felt like justice. 6 months later, I stood at a press conference. I wasn't Cassia the victim, the girl crying on her kitchen floor. I was Cassia, the new CEO of Helios Innovations. I was there to announce the launch of the Arate Foundation for Victims of Financial Abuse, funded by Arion's $5 million. I had transformed my pain into purpose, honoring the legacy of the man who had believed in me. As I spoke about new beginnings, I saw a figure in a drab uniform pushing a mail card in the back of the lobby. It was Lysander. He kept his head down. "I've learned that the best revenge isn't ruin. It's building a better, stronger life. If my story touched you, please share it. You never know who needs to hear that it's possible to rebuild stronger than before." Subscribe for more stories about justice and new beginnings.